Hey everyone, it's me as usual, Dr. Highfish, Jamie. I haven't done one of these in ages, huh? Well, first of all, okay, it's like a slightly incorrect statement. I actually did film a sketch chat video a couple days ago where I finally, finished coloring that, like, last illustration that I did. But I don't know, I was testing out like new art supplies that I wasn't familiar with, so I don't know, I didn't like love the way it turned out, and also I was just like super blanking on everything I was saying, and I just kind of sounded like an idiot. So I was like, all right, let's just like redo this, you know. I'll you know, I will show you at least though, like this is the illustration colored. It's fine. Like I know I'm being picky, I guess. Like, you know, I do art for a living, so like I'm like kind of hard on myself a lot with this kind of stuff, but I'd never used these before. These were like Chromatech watercolor pens. I don't know, I had no idea what I was doing. Learned a lot. Learned that metallics go down on top of them, so that's good to know. But yeah, I don't know, I didn't love it or anything. Maybe I'll scan it and touch it up a little, we'll see. But yeah, it wasn't just the fact that I was like meh on the colored edition of the illustration. I also just I don't know, it just happens sometimes, you know, where like you try to talk and you're just like like for like 45 minutes straight. So I was like, all right, let's just start over. So I'm gonna do a new illustration. This is the sketch. I wanted to do like art for chapter 14. That's the one that just came out, which I should also mention, like, yeah, the spoiler alert for Amalgamate chapters 1 through 14. So if you're not entirely caught up, just be cautious. And if you don't care about spoilers, then whatever. So yeah, I don't know, I really enjoyed this scene in the in Gonta's lab. It was sad, but like in kind of a pretty way, and I just was like, you know, I want to try drawing this. I will not be coloring this one for reasons. I'll come back to this one eventually, but for today I'm just inking it. And on top of that, I had a few questions from the Amalgamate Discord server, so this is also, as usual, my excuse to answer some of those. So I'm just gonna get right into it, because it's been quite clear to me lately that I'm not very good at talking and drawing at the same time, which is why the last video was just kind of trash. So I'm gonna do my best, but I have always been a lot better at writing than speaking, that's for sure. So let's just hop right into the questions because, you know, I ramble. I know it, you know it. I am what I am. Amalgamate probably wouldn't be what it is if I wasn't a serial rambler. So the first couple questions came from, oh my god, I just don't know how to pronounce usernames. I'm so sorry. Is it Urza? I don't know. I'm so sorry. You seem like such a lovely person, and I'm like butchering your username. But yeah, Urza, I guess. They asked a couple questions, and I will say the first one is a friggin' trap. Like, but it's like I swore I'd answer all the questions, and so now I gotta I gotta do it. The question was, will I ever be adding the major character death hashtag to Amalgamate? I was like, ah, no. I mean, I understand why that question gets asked, right? I don't think. I mean, I'm sure it's in part because everyone's like, "Oh my God, is Jamie gonna kill Kokichi? Because how is this poor child still going?" Um, but I'm guessing that the reason why this question has been asked, because it's not the first time that I've been asked about the ending, um, is Tsumugi, right? Everyone's curious if Tsubugi's gonna make it out alive. And so the fact that there's no major character death hashtag has people being like, okay, so Tsumugi isn't gonna die, but then how in the world are we gonna have a happy ending, right? Like, which I find very funny, like oh, a happy ending to a V3 story is like impossible if Tsumugi makes it out. I mean, I get it. It's understandable. But I did promise I would answer the question, so I guess if you don't want spoilers about this one, just, fast forward, I don't know, 5 minutes into the video. I'd put timestamps on it, but I'm, kind of bad at everything, and this is just sort of a quick thing. So yeah, anyways, I'll just come right out and say it. No, I will not be adding the major character death hashtag. In general, I don't want to add tags. In part just because I kind of, like, when I first posted the fic in general, I tried to be, like, really upfront right from the start, like, short of just straight up putting dead dog do not eat. Like, I tried to be pretty honest about the content down to the happy ending even. And on top of that, I think the trigger warnings at the start of each chapter kind of do their job, don't they? I think. Because, for example, like, I've wondered if I should maybe actually add the like minor character death hashtag, because of, again, spoilers for like chapter 14. So the monocubs, and like I think like the searchlight memories, you could kind of make an argument like dice counts as minor character death, things like that. But I did put that warning specifically like on chapters that required it, so I don't know, like, maybe I'll add that one. I will say there is one really scary hashtag I might add later on. I'm not gonna say what it is, because I don't want anyone like thinking about it too much and like maybe, I don't know, I just I don't want to make y'all more nervous than you probably already are about everything that's happening to these poor kids. So yeah, I'm just gonna, like, I don't know, we'll see. But in general, I don't really plan on adding hashtags at all. Like, I'm not trying to like hide anything, from you guys. So yeah, I guess, make of that what you will. I don't think it should be all that surprising that I'm not gonna have major character death when I clearly am very sympathetic to Kokichi and am incapable of reading fics anymore where he dies. I don't have the mental stamina for it. But yeah, as for the Tsumugi situation, we'll see. We'll see. I will not elaborate further, obviously. Also, I just gotta say, drawing Kaito with his hair down is, like, surreal, isn't it? Like, I'm so used to, like, the freaking whoosh, the freaking like astronaut landing pad and hair. And so as I was working on this, like I almost started sketching that hair, and then I was like, wait, no, remember this is chapter 14, and we're all like ungelled and sad. um Anyways, so Urza's next question was, what was it? My brain is like just fading away here. I know I had two more questions. I think it was, or no, sorry. Urza had one question, and then it was Sideblog. Sideblog had two questions. I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm getting so mixed up here. Y'all know I don't sleep, so this, shouldn't be that surprising when I'm just like barely functional. Yeah, sorry about that. Sideblog had two questions. And one of them was, what were the inspirations for Amalgamate? Which I actually think is like a really interesting question for fan fiction, don't you think? Because like the like cop out answer would be like, oh well, it's fan fiction, so the inspiration would be canon, right? The source material. Like if I wanted to be really lazy here, like I'd be like, oh well, obviously the inspiration for this Danganronpa V3 fanfic was Danganronpa V3. But that's stupid, so I don't know. I just think it's interesting to think like, what is the inspiration for a work of fiction that is kind of like already by its nature coming from inspiration of other stories. So I tried to ponder it a little bit before I started this video, just so that I wouldn't, ramble too much with like thinking and dwelling on things. So I have a few answers to this. One of them is, in general, I am a huge fan of the trope of two people who don't get along being forced into a situation where now like they have to learn to get along. And there's names for that, right? Like people will call it, I think it's like popular in like buddy cop genres. I think like in AO3 tags you'd probably see it a lot as like enemies to friends, that kind of thing. I actually have a different name for it, because I write and illustrate comics for a living, and I have this one comic series that I'm most known for, and I get asked a lot at conventions, like to give the elevator pitch, and I always say it's Emperor's New Groove meets Enemy Mine. But that's what I do refer to this trope as. I call it the enemy mine trope, because that movie, which it is also a book, I think it was almost like a short story, but yeah, the movie is what most people would know. Yeah, I saw the movie when I was really, really young, like probably like 7 years old or something like that. My parents are huge sci-fi nerds, so they put the movie on. And I do think that movie's like, it's a little adult for how old I was, but that's how my parents were with things in general. So, for those who don't know, which I assume is probably everyone at this point in life, because the movie is old. It's older than I am. Like it's like from the 80s, I think. The basic premise is humans are at war with an alien race, and a human soldier and an alien soldier both crash land on a hostile planet and have to set aside their differences and learn to get along to survive. And it's an interesting movie. I'd be curious to visit it now that I'm older. It has a lot of really surprising topics, I suppose, for how old it is. For example, like the human has to deal with the realization that the alien, who he's been referring to as he, is actually a hermaphrodite. You know, and I feel like topics like that, you didn't see a whole lot of that treated with kindness and with grace in the 80s. Yeah, I don't know. I really do recommend the movie. The practical effects are still really cool. Anyways, the point is, seeing that at a young age, that's how that trope ended up becoming kind of like what defines almost everything I work on. Like, I want to say like every like major project I've worked on, I tend towards that trope. So it's not like surprising that like Amalgamate had me, you know, in those same enemy mine waters. I'm just a big fan of that. So yeah, that's one inspiration. I would also say another inspiration is I went dark on AO3 for a long time. I used to post a lot of fan fiction. Some of it's still up, some of it is long gone, unfortunately, and I do apologize to anyone who was not happy about that. It was a long 7-8 years. So during that time, though, I was still reading fan fiction. And I was really obsessed with MCU Thor Loki fics. I read so many of them. I like inhaled them. Because again, it's that trope, right? Of like, in their case, it's kind of interesting because it's not enemies to friends. It's like friends to enemies. And now, for the love of God, we need to be friends again. Or, you know, brothers. And I will say, I think Kaito and Kokichi are like literally just Thor and Loki, though. Like it's actually kind of hilarious. And during that time where I was like not posting fanfiction on AO3, like I always had a desire to write Thor and Loki stories because there were so many incredibly good ones. And yeah, I kind of regretted that I never wrote or posted any. And I do feel like in a way, like Kaito and Kokichi are a bit of a like second chance for me on that one. Because like, let's be real, like it is like the same thing, right? Like Thor, the athletic space Viking who punches first, asks questions later, seems dumb, but is actually secretly not at all stupid. Meanwhile, Loki, the smaller one, the trickster, the chronic liar, who is defined by their manipulation tactics and being sassy. And together the two make the greatest team if they would just set aside their differences for once and stop being like this. So yeah, there was a lot of really interesting fan fiction that I read that I do think heavily inspired this. It's kind of funny, right, to say like my fanfic was inspired by fan fictions from a different fandom, but yeah, inspiration comes from all kinds of places, right? I do think, boy, I was trying to think like if there was like one MCU fic that I had to pick that was like a huge inspiration for this one. You know, interestingly enough, there was one fanfic that I think really inspired me to tell a story like this. I'm hesitant to say anything because, like, there's stuff with later in Amalgamate that I'm like, okay, well, okay, I don't remember the title of it. I'll just say it really briefly. It was actually not technically a Thor and Loki fic. It was a Loki story in which after the Avengers, Loki ends up crashing back on Earth, and then Shield picks him up, and they realize interrogating him is pointless, right? Because he's a liar. And so they actually bring in Professor X, because he can read minds, and he is now there as an interrogator slash lie detector, but kind of accidentally ends up becoming the source of extreme Loki analysis in a way. It was super interesting, a super interesting fic. I'll look up the title later and I'll put it in the description on this video for anyone, or like a link to it for anyone who wants to read it. Yeah, it almost like became like an accidental therapy session of like when Loki isn't able to lie, analysis of him becomes very, very interesting. And yeah, I'm not going to get into too much why that particular fic inspired Amalgamate. I think it'll make more sense later, but like just that idea of like getting into the mind of a liar is very interesting to me. So that's another bit of inspiration. There was a third thing I wanted to bring up. And this one's so obvious that I feel stupid saying it. One of the inspirations for this fic was Amalgamates. Which, you know, for those who don't know, I'm referring to Undertale. Please don't roll your eyes at that. I guess it was just the concept of the amalgamates from Undertale. I don't want to get into it too much, but I was unbelievably intrigued by this concept of things that defied their fate being death, becoming very literally trauma bonded, like physically, like becoming an amorphous blob of trauma. So yeah, like that's why Amalgamate is called that. It's because I was inspired by the amalgamates from Undertale. Yeah, this concept of something coming in, changing the canon, changing fate, and causing several beings to become, literally, for those who know Undertale, you know I mean literally, too determined to die, and now are just, yeah, amorphous blobs of suffering. I feel like that's the best way to put it. It sounds really ominous, I know. I promise that I don't want that for Kaito and Kokichi, but I can't deny that that is the situation they're in right now. So let's unblob these poor kids before it gets too bad. But yeah, that was obviously like an inspiration, was Undertale. I think that about wraps it up for that question. If I think of anything else, I'll talk about it in a different video maybe, because I'm sure there are other things I'm just not thinking of right now because I'm really bad at public speaking and drawing and talking simultaneously. So Sideblog had another question. which was actually a question I've answered before, but it's a situation where this answer is probably going to keep changing. So I think it's good to return to it. And that is, of course, what is your favorite scene in Amalgamate? And I think that the last time I answered that question, maybe only like 9, maybe 10 chapters were out. I don't remember. So yeah, obviously, like, that answer is gonna keep changing because there's just more scenes. I want to say the first time I answered that question, I don't know, I haven't rewatched any of these, so like, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry about my terrible memory. But I think I said that my favorite scene at the time was the forced antidote drinking in chapter 6. And I think I said that it was my favorite and least favorite scene in the story, which is actually really common for how I feel about a lot of scenes in Amalgamate, because it's like, on the one hand, I loved that scene, you know, for all the things that happened, such as, you know, Kokichi not dying and you know, Maki really coming into her own, and all sorts of things, everybody coming together after the trial. But also I find the scene horrifying, and rereading it causes me absolute agony. It's, I am such a softie, like, you would not even believe it. Like, everybody thinks I can just so easily write these kinds of scenes, and I actually really can't. I'm very, very soft, and let's just say, if scenes in the fic hurt you, they hurt me too. But yes, I think that answer has shifted. And I want to give 2 answers to this one, because one is retroactive. I reread the fic recently. I've reread it a few times, actually. Because, you know, I need to be very careful with everything, especially now as we're like approaching the final trial and stuff. Like, there's really no room for error anymore. Everything has got to be perfect. The phrase "no stone left unturned" could not be more relevant at this point. So yeah, I've reread it a few times, and I think that doing that has kind of led to me having, 2 separate answers here, because there's a scene in chapter 4, actually, where every time I reread the fic, I'm hesitant to use this word. It sounds a little like haughty, and I don't mean it that way. But when I read this scene, I'm like kind of proud of myself a little. And like I said, I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I mean that like in a happy I pulled it off the way I wanted it kind of way. And that would be at the end of chapter 4, when Kokichi was like really, really suffering. Like, he was just about to just go down. And despite that, oh my god, cat hair. Freaking cat hair. Where are those 2? I have 2 cats, very fluffy. And I'm kind of surprised they're not yelling right now. Anyways, yeah, Kokichi, he grabs the mic and starts just absolutely, like, losing it on Maki, doing the whole "I'm the mastermind," all that, you know, thing. And Kaito is kind of watching in horror, because, you know, he knows that's not true. And suddenly he realizes, like, wait, when did I become so sure that that wasn't true? And from then on, we have this whole scene where Kaito is, like, going through this inner monologue, and the culmination of that monologue is a very surprisingly simple statement, which is just, Kokichi cares. That's it. All of that is just Kaito having that realization that on an actual, like, real, visceral level, Kokichi cares. And that kind of changes everything. And every time I read the story, I'm just like, I'm so glad I managed to make that scene happen and have it happen the way it did. To like organically guide Kaito to that realization in a way that made sense and was realistic. I don't know, I was just really happy with how that turned out. Like, because, you know, sometimes, like, there's certain scenes I'll reread and I'll be like, oh, I wish I'd done this different or that different. I wish I'd wrote it, oh my god, written it differently. But that scene, I'm like, yeah, I'm proud of that. Like, if somebody were to say, like, sell me on this fic, send me a scene, I think I would send them that one. So that's, like, retroactively my favorite scene. But if we're talking, like, favorite, like, on its own, just, like, the scene itself, oh boy. It's like, this is just gonna sound like the chapter 6 thing all over again. It's gotta be the Searchlight speedrun. I'm sorry. And again, it's not because I enjoy suffering, because I don't. And I actually really do want to make that clear. Because I did have a conversation with someone recently that was not the best. And to make a long story short, it kind of was like implied that Amalgamate is some kind of torture fic. And that was extremely upsetting to me, because I don't want these kids to be hurt at all. Like, genuinely. Like, of course I appreciate reading and writing angst, but, like, I'm not doing this for angst's sake. Like, I'm doing this because these kids are in a killing game and I am realistically trying to get them out, while a certain someone who does not like them as much as I do is trying to foil that every turn. So, no, this is not a freaking torture fic. That's awful. This is a story about people trying to escape a killing game and persevering, and that's the most important thing about the story. This is not senseless violence. That being said, I do love the Searchlight speedrun, and I had been really, really excited to finally get to it, because that scene had been in preparation for a while. I want to say, because that was chapter 13, and I think as far back as chapter 11, we already saw Kokichi jokingly referring to the, like, wow, Kaito, it's like you did a Searchlight speedrun, at which point, like, you know, if you look back on it, you just want to be like, Kaito, listen to him. He just told you what he's gonna do. Why is nobody listening? I think the moment I most wanted to strangle Kaito, like, no offense, Kaito, I love you, but, like, it was like, there was one chapter recently where, like, Kaito made some comment about, like, if Kokichi tells a joke twice, then it, like, means it's important. And then, like, literally, like, chapter 13, Kokichi does the Searchlight speedrun joke, and Kaito, like, out loud is like, I think you're losing your touch, you already said that joke. And it's like, Kaito, goddammit, he's telling you, he's warning you what he's about to do. Like, Kaito, I love you, and I understand you're very tired, but come on, man. But yeah, I had been planning that scene for a while. Whenever I discussed it with my beta reader, we would just call it, like, the speed run. That was, like, the secret code word for, like, that scene. So yeah, like, obviously I don't enjoy Kokichi being freaking strangled. I'm not about that life. But what I do enjoy is, first of all, that was for the sake of his plan. Like, it was a good thing. And, you know, he got what he needed from all that. It unfortunately had to be done. But that being said, I love what that scene did for everyone else. Because to me, it was like, I'm really big on full circle moments. I'm sure y'all have noticed, because Kaito's even made jokes in the story about it, where he like mentions like, oh, we're trapped in a loop, I swear, like this shitty thing that happened is just happening all over again. There's a reason for that. I'm a big fan of, like, I call them full circle moments. I like when characters in a story can take something that they've learned and apply it later, almost like a redo. It's not to say that I want to rehash scenes. It's more just like, you take a scene and you do a more hardcore version of it later, and now you like let the characters really flourish with it, you know? And to me, the Searchlight speed run is essentially the redo of the antidote drinking scene from chapter 6, because it's like putting everything to the test now. Kaito is being tested, right? Like, can he truly trust that Maki has good intentions, that she's genuinely not only doing this not to like hurt Kokichi, but to like, but also like she understands, right? Like, she secretly has caught on, like, oh, these freaking idiots realized that they could get through the searchlights faster if one of them is dying. You dumb freaking frustrating motherfuckers. But that's like, it's like great, right? Like, it's like Kaito's learned to trust her, and have faith in her, and she's kind of learning to have faith in her skills in a way, right? Like, that, like, if she has to use her assassin skills, it's awesome that she can use them to help instead of to hurt. Like, she is hurting, but she's doing it in a way that's actually a good thing and is helping, which is very important, I think, to her character development. And even if that scene was not great for Kokichi, I think it did lead into him having more of an understanding of Maki in chapter 14. Like, I think if the speed run hadn't happened, I'm not sure Maki would have apologized to Kokichi. And if the speed run hadn't been successful, I'm not sure Kokichi would have even ever accepted that apology, which I think he is still struggling with it, but like, we're getting there, you know? So yeah, I don't know, to me, like, the scene is really important, and I really loved that, like, Maki kind of came through in the end, you know? Like, she did what she had to do, and then she stopped as soon as possible, and you know, cared about Kokichi for real. Like, genuinely was like checking on him and making sure he was okay and she hadn't gone too far. It led to really important conversations between her and Kaito. I don't know, I had been planning that scene for a really long time, and it ended up being exactly what I wanted, and I was really happy with it, because I was kind of dreading it, to be honest, in part because it was just a lot of pressure. Like, it was such an important scene that it was like, oh my god, like, please don't let me mess this up. Because I'm not always as confident as y'all might think I am. Like I get such anxiety with this story sometimes, because I'm just like, god, it would be so easy to ruin everything. But that scene worked out, and I was happy with it. Which, yeah, is good because I was dreading it. Not just because of that, but also because I just knew how much suffering I was going to have to write. And that is hard on me. That scene got rewritten more than I think, like, probably any scene in the fic. And that was in part because I had such a hard time writing it. That's why I take issue with the whole, like, oh, you're just, like, writing a torture fic thing, because no, I had to rewrite that scene because it was so upsetting that I was, like, doing a bad job. The first few drafts of it, that scene read like a panic attack. Like, it was like Kaito was like becoming out of character because I was just losing it. That's how much of a softie I am with this stuff. Like, I don't want to hurt these kids. I don't. I want them to grow, and I'm gonna do whatever I have to do to get them out of this game and to get these bonds and the healing that they need, but I don't enjoy hurting them. But yeah, that being said, I think my answer to the question of, like, what is your favorite scene, I do think it will change again, though, so even if nobody asks me again, I probably will want to address this question again. And that's something I did want to talk about, is like a progress report on this story. So chapter 14 just came out, right? Like, when I want to say, like, what, like 2 weeks ago, maybe? And I had already written some of chapter 15 in that time. I had gotten ahead. That being said, I've been kind of taken over by demons or something. And I've started writing uncontrollably, which is good and bad. I guess, good for Amalgamate, bad for the actual work I have to do. I do have, like, a job, which involves, like, you know, like, script and art deadlines and things, like, so that part's not great. I keep wondering if I'm, like, writing Amalgamate furiously because I'm trying to avoid the horror of how much actual paid contract work I have to do as I sit here sketching this totally unnecessary drawing that is not part of my paid job. But hey man, you only live once, right? I gotta enjoy myself. So yeah, as far as a progress report on Amalgamate goes, it's gonna sound a little wild. Please don't judge me. I don't sleep, and I have very severe ADHD, the hyper focus kind. You know, just I am what I am. I'm at 1,000% 24/7. So at the time that I'm filming this, I've actually written all of chapter 15, and all of chapter 16. Which is really saying something, because chapter 15 is, I don't want to say short. There's no such thing as a short Amalgamate chapter, but it's similar in length to, like, the earlier chapters of Amalgamate. And chapter 16 is not. Chapter 16 is just as long as any recent chapters. So the fact that I wrote both of them is, it's just a little scary. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, I'm proud of myself. Like, no, I'm gonna be honest and be like, that's concerning. That's not healthy. I should probably eat or sleep or something, and also do the work I'm supposed to do that I'm paid to do. But there is a reason. Like, I'm being a little cynical here. Like, it's not just like, oh, I'm writing Amalgamate because I'm trying to avoid the shit I'm actually supposed to be doing. No, it's also because we are at a point in the story now where not knowing every tiny detail is a little concerning because again, no stone unturned. I can't afford to have any situations where like let's say like I'm writing the trial and I suddenly realize like, oh shit, like I should have, you know, laid down this one bit of information in chapter 15 and I didn't, and now I'm screwed. You know, some clue, some bit of evidence or something like got left in the dust and now I'm in trouble. So yeah, there is a little bit of that where it's like I'm just really like not concerned. Like I'm not. I know where I'm going with this. Like the story is planned out. Like I've, you know, known where I'm going for a while here. But the thought of posting a chapter at this point where I don't know every tiny detail is a little scary. So, I think I will post chapter 15 soon because it is a little shorter. I don't want everyone to wait too long for a chapter with like slightly less content than we've gotten used to. I say slightly because it's still long. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna keep writing. I hate to say it. I had someone ask recently, well, I've been asked many times, but like literally just like a couple days ago, somebody asked me, how many chapters do I think there will be? And obviously I can't know anything 100% for sure, but if I had to guess, I want to say probably 20. And as far as like, okay, so how many chapters then do you need to feel comfortable about, you know, the chapters you're sharing? The answer to that would be the 15, 16, 17, 18, I think. You know, give or take. Like, I don't know. Like, sometimes I think, like, oh, this is exactly how long something is going to take. And then, lo and behold, my slow, rambling ass ends up requiring, like, an extra chapter to get through a bit of content. But at least as far as like when I, you know, have my outline and like how it all looks in my head, it seems like 20 chapters. The last 2 chapters I'm not concerned about in the same way that I am about the ones I'm working on right now. So, you know, does that mean like, oh, I won't post like even though chapter 16 is done, does that, well, I mean, not done, like it's a first draft, like it still needs a ton of work, but like, you know, does that mean like, sorry, I'm just like pulling up a image of Kaito's shirt, because what a weird shirt. Like, is it like a kabuki face? Is that what's happening on his shirt? I like never noticed that before until I pulled up this image, and I was like, oh, it's a face. Would you look at that? But yeah, it looks like kabuki makeup, which is interesting. I wonder what that means. Well, metaphorically, I could really read into that, but that'll be a topic for a different video. But yeah, even though I've like written quote unquote chapter 16, like I'm not saying like I'm gonna hold that chapter hostage until chapters 17, 18, yeah, 17, 18 are written. It just means that like I am gonna keep writing. Like I'm gonna keep going as far as I can so that, yeah, I don't mess anything up accidentally, because that would be unfortunate. But yeah, for those who are curious about, like, you know, status updates on the story, yeah, I wrote chapter 16. It's a really long chapter, so yeah, it's a bit of a yikes on my part. It's kind of a get a life kind of moment. I do think part of it, though, is I'm really excited about that chapter. I don't want to say too much because, like, chapter 15's not out yet, and so that's the one I should be hyping up the most. And don't get me wrong, oh, it hype. Like, the way I've described it to a few people is it's like, if it feels like there's been, like, a bomb ticking this whole story, chapter 15 might feel like the bomb finally went off. So yeah, I don't want to downplay chapter 15 here, but chapter 16 is kind of the chapter I've been waiting for since the beginning, and I do think that that is fueling why I've been writing so much. Like, for those of you who write, you probably know this feeling, right? Where before you start writing a story, there's like certain scenes you've imagined in your head, and those are like the scenes that really like get you wanting to write. Like, you're like, whatever it takes to get to those moments. That's chapter 16 for me. Not entirely, like, there's stuff after that that also is the case, that I, you know, have been working towards these things, but chapter 16 is definitely the one where I'm like, yes, this is what I was working towards. This was the goal. These are the scenes I've been imagining since day one. And so when you do finally, like, get there, it's kind of hard to stop, right? You're like, I mean, in my case, like, what, Amalgamate started like over 10 months ago. So yeah, I've been like holding some of this in for like 10 months, and now I'm like finally able to write. Because I'm not one of those writers who writes the scenes they're looking forward to ahead of time, because I'm a little worried that then you lose like your incentive, right? You need like that panic constantly of like, I have to write this scene because if I don't, I'll never get to that scene. So yeah, even though there's certain scenes I've been like imagining for ages, I haven't like actually written them, and now finally, nearly a year later, I get to do that. So yeah, I think it has kind of put me in a bit of a like crazed state, I will say, like, where I kind of just like can't stop writing. But I think that's fair when you've been waiting as long as I have for certain scenes. So this is a long-winded way of me saying, like, I'm really, really excited for the next couple chapters. More than a couple. Like, I think chapter 15 is just going to be like, it's really intense. Really intense. And then chapter 16 is like, it's just kind of like, holy crap. Like, this is the chapter where like, just, it all makes sense. Like, not like plot wise, but just like the themes, the heart and soul of the story. Like, it all led to this. And even while writing it, I was just like, I have so many feelings. But I do think probably the trial will be after that. And yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't kind of freaked out by that. It's a lot. You would think like, oh, you already rewrote chapter 5's trial, so this should be like a cakewalk, but It's not true at all. I think that the chapter 6 trial is much more intimidating, especially because I have managed to make it more complicated than it already was by a lot. So, yeah. Yeah, I do think that's like partially what's been fueling this mania that has kind of overtaken me, is just like this need to know exactly what's going to happen because of the trial. You know, like, I'm not even going to beat around the bush. The trial is the issue here. Like, I'm so worried about screwing something up and leaving something out, and I can't have that. So, yeah, it's coming. That trial is rapidly approaching. But I am excited to finally get to some of this content, which was like a long-winded way of me saying, like, I guess it's a long-winded way of me saying, not only that, like, my pick for favorite scene is going to change, but I guess also, like, saying, I may have already written my favorite scenes, I just can't, discuss them because they are not posted yet. It's kind of like when somebody asked me, like, what's your favorite joke in Amalgamate? And I was, like, really struggling because my favorite joke had been written but not shared yet, which was the joke where, like, Kokichi says, "Nay, I am actually a horse." The joke just freaking kills me. But yeah. I think maybe the next time I do one of these videos, I will, return to that question of what is your favorite scene, because I already know that answer is about to change because I wrote it. I wrote the scene that makes me say that. Scenes plural, in fact. Several scenes in which I think, yeah, those are going to be my favorite scenes for sure. But yeah. I'm really hyped. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm finally doing this video, is like I've just been like so excited about stuff to come and I can't hold it in. So I was just like, let's do a sketch chat. I have to talk to everybody. That being said, I am almost done. Just about done. Just lots of grass. I will return to this one. I know I kind of alluded to that at the beginning of the video. Yeah, I don't want to color this one yet. I want to color it later, for reasons that will make sense eventually. It doesn't seem right to color this scene at the moment. That's not to say, though, if you really like this scene, I saw several people saying, like, they could, like, just see it as, like, a painting or something. Please feel free to color it. Please. I'd love to see that. I have different reasons than you would expect for me saying I'm not going to color this right now. In fact, I'm probably going to scan this after I'm done, so that I can maybe make some changes to this one later on. But yeah, this was really just an excuse for me to chat with y'all. I really hope y'all are enjoying the fic. It seems like you are. It seems like everyone really liked chapter 14, and I'm really glad. Because this has just been such a wild and awesome experience. And yeah, if anyone has any questions for me anytime, please never hesitate to ask. I could probably talk about this fic forever. I'm serious. Literally forever. So, never hesitate to ask me a question. Because chances are I will be as excited to answer it as y'all are to get an answer. But yeah. Also, I just want to say, drawing Kaito's slippers has once more reminded me that he's wearing slippers. And I think that is hilarious. Can you believe this guy is running around the killing game in slippers? Like, dude, are you for real? Can you imagine? If I was doing that, they would have fallen off like 5 minutes into all this mess. Guaranteed. Oh, Lord. These two are gonna be the death of me. I was really glad though this scene happened. I'd been planning this scene for a very, very long time where I was like, get Kokichi into Gonta's lab because he needs to get some shit off his chest. Big time. Let the kid vent. Let the kid murder some monocos. If you're someone who likes the monocos, I apologize for all of that and all the things that happened, but I think Kokichi really needed that. Okay, let's just wrap this up really quick. I think that's about all I'm gonna do. Let me just put some texture on this tree really fast. But like I said, most of that will come later when I'm inevitably coloring this in some capacity. But I don't know, I like it when trees have like some yeah, like that. I just want these two to be happy. I really do. Let Kaito and Kokichi be happy 2023. You know, the 1 year anniversary of Amalgamate is approaching. Oh, I remember I posted it quite close to Halloween last time. And Halloween is now approaching. Should I do something for like the 1 year anniversary? I don't know what I should do though. I'm gonna have to think on that. If anyone has any suggestions, let me know. Because I have no idea. Since my job is art, always like my immediate reaction is, I'll do art for the anniversary. But maybe that's not the most creative thing because I already do a lot of art. So maybe like I should try to think of something else. I don't know. God, 1 year anniversary. That's crazy. That's awesome though. I just can't believe I'm finally at the point where I get to write certain scenes. Like it's, I think the next time I do one of these videos, I will probably have posted chapters in which I can really talk more freely about that, but to finally be at that point where I can genuinely say like, those scenes are happening. I can't believe it. It's so cool. Sometimes I can't even believe this fic is real. That any of this is real. Thank you so much, everyone. I really mean that. Like, truly mean that. I hope this has been as fun for y'all as it has been for me. Okay. Yeah, I will do additional... I think before I color this one, I'll probably end up inking it a little bit more. Flesh out some details, but this video is already an hour and I don't want it to go on too long, so let's wrap it up. But yeah, again, if you have any questions that you want me to just, you know, discuss in another sketch chat video, let me know. If you ever have any comments or questions in general, let me know. And, oh wait, hold on. I just noticed. Tree details. No. I'm a professional. Yeah, I'll do some, I'm gonna do some shading for this later on. It definitely needs it. Big time. But yeah, that's all for now. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. And I'll probably see y'all in chapter 15 coming very soon. Bye.